Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a draw with me plus a Q&A from the questions that you guys sent in on Instagram. The drawing is actually already up on Instagram, so you guys can go check it out if you want. But without further ado, let's answer the questions. So the first question is from my lovely friend Sam on Instagram, and she asks, how do you manage to put out both quantity and quality in your works? Sending love. Sending love back to you. I guess the first tip that I would give is to make art a priority. That's what I've done, and I no longer kind of put it aside as a hobby, and I treat it as something that I really want to do and something important to me. So that's how I kind of make like time to draw every day, or at least, constantly. And I just have like a list of ideas always, in my notes and my Pinterest boards at any given moment. And so at any given moment, I kind of always have something that I want to draw. Not even something, like a lot of things that I want to draw. And so whenever I draw, I just kind of pick the one that I'm vibing with the most at that moment, and then I just draw it out. And I also make sure to draw what I really, really love. So that's how I make sure that the quality is high. So when I'm drawing something that I really love, it just lights me up, and I end up, working really hard on it and putting a lot of effort and love into it, and it turns out really nice. Versus like if I'm drawing something and I'm not really happy with how the sketch is turning out, or I'm really just not vibing with it, I'll definitely either put it away or start over or just delete it and just come back to it in the future. The next question comes from Kathy, who is Mangostini on Instagram, and she asks, how did you overcome your art fears? For example, drawing hands, expressions, perspectives, and all that stuff. I guess just by doing it more often. That's really the only solution to it. I did a lot of practice, and I paid a lot of attention to how other artists like drew, like paid close attention to like the lines that they did, like how they made their shapes. I don't know, I hope I'm making sense, but essentially just go beyond looking at the bigger picture of the artwork and like dive deep into like each line and stroke that makes up the whole picture. So yeah. And also, of course, practicing through learning. So I have done a lot of tutorials from YouTube, a lot of sketches, and on Pinterest as well. I love Pinterest so much because you can find a lot of really great references for sketching, for poses, and even a lot of art tips. So I highly, highly recommend Pinterest. And basically, I just observed and imitated. So I knew I was really bad in the beginning. I drew very deformed hands and really ugly faces, but there's really no shortcut to it. You just have to keep observing and imitating and repeating that process until your hand kind of gains that muscle memory and your brain starts to recognize where it's looking funky and where you should be fixing things. And so yeah, I just did a lot of practice, and the fear kind of dissipated over time as I got better. The next question comes from my friend Reiko, and she says, I love your page. When did you decide to start an art account? What? Thank you. I basically decided to start one in late 2018, I think. And I actually started it in April of 2019. And the reason for this was because I had just discovered studio vlogs on YouTube, and I fell in love with that whole like artist lifestyle, even though I couldn't draw at that point. And I don't know, something about digital art was just so appealing to me. Like, it looked super fun. So I made up my mind to get myself an iPad and start to draw as well. And I started with doodles of like food and inanimate objects and stuff. But yeah, I knew I wanted to basically late 2018, so around 2 years ago. The next question is from Wolfgang, or WVLFGNG, and the question is, hi, any tips for choosing skin colors and blush? By the way, I love the vibe and cleanliness of your artworks. Thank you so much. My number one tip for this would be to do a lot of draw this in your style challenges and color pick from the illustrations of those challenges. That's basically what I did at the beginning, and that's really what helped me build up a library of palettes for skin and kind of understand, what kind of range skin colors could have. So from there, I just practiced a lot. I built up my library. Like I opened like a Procreate color palette, and I just, added in all the colors in there. And also looking up just skin color palettes on Pinterest or on Google. There are tons of them online. And from there, you kind of just tweak it according to what you like. So whether you have a warmer color style or a cooler one, and just personal preference. And I feel like as time goes by and you do more, you'll start to learn like where skin colors naturally should fall, and then you can change it up according to your own personal style. And as for blush, so my technique for doing blush is pretty simple. I just pick the skin color as a base, and then from there I just pick a slightly darker and more saturated, warmer kind of color, and I use a soft brush with like a really, really soft texture, maybe like an airbrush or something, and I just go over the cheek area. So it's really easy. Like basically I use the original skin color as a base. So yeah, that's all there is to it. Pretty simple. The next question comes from Vivi Arts, and she asks, when did you start doing digital art? So like I said before, I started the account I think on the 22nd of April 2019. That was like my first post marking the start of the account. And I didn't actually start drawing humans, or at least I didn't post any humans until November of 2019. Like I said, I just drew really cute things and pastel colors. I remember I did like eggs and bacon and just really, really cute things. And I was slowly starting to practice humans, but I was really discouraged in the beginning because everything I drew looked really deformed. But I took the leap and posted the first human portrait I did in November of 2019. And the reason why I love digital art so much over traditional art is because honestly it was because of the iPad. I just love the idea of being able to draw anywhere, anytime with like this tiny little tablet and this pen that's like the size of a notebook that you can carry anywhere. And the fact that you get access to like infinite colors and brushes and canvases. Like I'm a very minimalist kind of person, so that was right up my alley. So that's why I love digital art so much. The next question is from my lovely, lovely, talented art friend Adrienne, and she asks, what advice would you give to your younger self? This is a really good question. I think the number one piece of advice would be not to worry too much and not to stress that much, because it's all gonna work out fine. You're gonna be fine. Yeah. And also just, everything happens for a reason. So you need to lighten up a little, because I think I was kind of like a serious child. Well, maybe not serious, but like there's a lot of pressure on me academically, I suppose. And I don't know. It was a big part of my life, and only recently have I learned to let it go and realize that academics, while they are important, they're not everything. So yeah, that's been really freeing to me, and that's definitely what I would tell my younger self. And also just to like have more faith in yourself, because again, I don't know, I wasn't the most confident child. So I don't think I could have told them and have it work, but because it's something you learn over time, but I would have definitely still told my younger self to be a little more confident. And also to get braces, because I regret not getting braces when I was a kid. Even though my teeth are fine now, but I should have gotten braces. So I also got a couple of questions about commissions. From Julintho Draws and Aesthetic X Film, they both ask about when you can start taking up commissions and how to start. So I would say the first step is to do your research. And this means, well, what I did was just to go on Twitter and Instagram and look at what other artists at my level, or what I was aspiring to be like, how they were doing their commission sheets and how the whole process worked, their terms and conditions, their prices, and all of that. I just soaked up as many commission sheets as I could find, and I saved it all under the Instagram thing where you can save into a section. Yeah, that's what I did. So yeah, how they price their commissions, how they format their commission sheets, I took all that in, and that honestly has been the biggest tip for me. Like, that's probably what I based like 90% of my commission sheets off of. And for prices, you can do like an hourly wage, but of course, I think you need to up it because you're doing custom work. So I don't think it should be like a standard hourly wage. Um, One tip I got from Twitter was like take the base rate of like 20 USD per hour times the number of hours it takes to finish a piece. But again, I think it also needs to vary depending on how confident you are and your own skill set and the sort of living standard where you're at. And I would say to start when you're fairly confident in the consistency of your style. And by that, I mean the way you render and your aesthetic in general, it looks consistent. And also your ability to draw exactly what you're offering. So, yeah, I would say as long as you can do that, I think you can open commissions. But also, it just depends on yourself. I think you should follow your gut when it comes to these kinds of things. And also, when you're starting, I think you should start with affordable prices. That's what I did, at least, so I wasn't that overwhelmed, by like the feelings. Like just testing the waters, I think is a pretty good idea to start. But of course, don't undervalue yourself because your art is worthy of that money. um, I think my starting price was like $25 USD for a bust, up to $55 for a full body. And at this point, I had already developed my art. I could give a pretty standard aesthetic and a general style of rendering. It's not too far from what I do right now. Just like now it's evolved a little bit, but I was already quite confident in it. And as I got more clients and I gained more experience and more demand, I decided to up the prices. So, yeah, as long as you are honest, I think, and you're transparent about all the information that goes on between you and your client, and of course, you're really genuine and really kind. I think that's also pretty important. I don't think clients like to deal with commissioners who are impolite or don't keep their word or are vague, so I think that's also something to consider. But yeah, that's what I have on commission so far based on my limited experience. The next question comes from Nicole T, and she asks, how did you learn to draw? It basically started with me messing around myself. I just tried to copy the art I was seeing online, and it did not look pretty. But some more practical tips. I watched a lot of artists' story highlights for tutorials. A lot of artists actually have like mini tutorials and tips on their story highlights, and I love watching stories, so that's what I did. And also, again, YouTube tutorials. I just looked up how to draw a face, how to, proportions, line of action, anatomy, things like that. And also, a big help for me has been Pinterest, because you can, as like I said, you can find a lot of really good resources on art and tutorials and things like that. I also ended up investing in a course or a teacher. I invested in Sarah Faber's Patreon. So I joined her Patreon in October, I think, of 2019. Yeah. And that was, I think, one of the biggest leaps that I made that helped me improve my art. Like, I learned so much from there. And Sarah Faber is also one of my biggest art inspirations. Actually, I think her studio vlogs were the ones that inspired me to start my art account. And speaking of Patreon, I actually just launched my own Patreon, and the girl that I'm drawing right now, the one you're watching me draw her bottom eyelashes right now, is the illustration for my Patreon, like the welcome page. So if you would like to learn how to draw, my Patreon is always open. I named my tiers after magical items for you to enjoy, and the link is in the description box. But anyway, back to the question. I also just surrounded myself with inspiration all the time. So I followed only artists on my Instagram feed, the art one, and also my Pinterest feed from movies, from music videos. I actually really love drawing like things from music videos because it's just so aesthetic, especially like K-pop music videos, like the girl groups. And also just looking at the color palette, like saving really aesthetic pictures. Like inspiration comes from everywhere. But I think a big chunk of that, again, is from seeing all the art on my Instagram feed. That really, I just observed and imitated, like I said before. And yeah, there's really no shortcut to it. You just keep on practicing, and somewhere along the way, it goes from being ugly to not bad to pretty good. So yeah. Next question is from my friend Paulina, and she asks, who are your biggest inspirations? So I assume this means art wise. So obviously, Sarah Faber, number one. She was my very first inspiration, although my style has evolved since then. So my current inspirations, the biggest ones, to name a few, would probably be Quinosaurus, Panziella, Georgie's sketches, and a lot of my lovely art friends. So Viens, Julienne from Summer Snow Queen, you, Waffle Arts, and then Manda Artem, Krista from It's Luna Lu, Jisupi, Apple Cheeks. There are so many. Basically, everyone that I follow on my Instagram is an inspiration to me. So, like, if you want to know, you can just click the whoever, like the my profile, and then you can find like whoever I'm following, and that's it. That's where all my inspiration comes from. The next question is from Leichen Art. They ask, what do you not like to draw? So, number one would be boys, I think. I find them a little more boring than girls because they don't have like long hair and pretty accessories and dresses and winged liner. Although, of course, they can wear those things and still look good. But in general, boys' features are kind of harder for me to draw because I haven't practiced that much. But I do want to get around to it. And also inanimate objects and backgrounds because I just find humans a lot more fun to draw. But eventually, at some point in the future, I really do want to try to practice all of these things and also get better at them. Next, Rosane Art asks, how did you find a place in the Insta art community, if that even makes sense? I think I understand what you're talking about. My biggest tip for you is to just be authentic and honest and really supportive. So put yourself out there and reach out to the artists that you love and DM them, engage with their posts, comment something meaningful, and do it all from a genuine place of, love and support, because that's basically all I did. And all my friendships that I've made now, they just grew organically from interacting and commenting, and just because I love their art so much, and the friendships just naturally formed. So in a nutshell, it's just send the genuine love out there and you'll receive it back. Even though it sounds cheesy, it's actually quite true. The next question is from Emily, and she asks, what was your favorite subject in school and was it your best? My favorite subject in school was English literature, and yes, I think it was my best. I'm quite a bookworm, and I did want to major in English at first, but my parents disagreed. But yeah, I really love analyzing literature, and I had the best classmates and teachers, so yeah, literature. I love it. For the next question, Olido Illustrations asks, how long does it take to make your drawings? So the one you're watching right now took me around 4 hours and 15 minutes, and that's a half body illustration. So usually for a bust, it would take less than 2 hours or max 2 hours. And for waist to knee up, it would take 4 to 6 hours, and for a full body, maybe around 8 hours. But it does take longer for commissions because I do need to update the client between the stages, so that's why it takes a bit longer. The very, very last question comes from Katie White, who asks, is cereal soup? No, soup is warm. Cereal should never be warm, so cereal is not soup. End of story. So yeah, those were all the questions that you guys sent in. This was quite a pain to film because I had to re-edit this video 3 times because Final Cut Pro kept crashing on me. But I finally have it up now, so I'm so happy about it. And yeah, this is me just putting the finishing touches on this lovely flower girl. If I didn't mention this before, her dress was inspired by that picture that I had of a dress from Tuta Matoshi, one of my favorite designers ever. Sponsor me. I'm kidding, like they ever would. But yeah, So that's where the inspiration came from, and I just changed the colors of the flowers. So here's the finished illustration. You can find it on my Instagram and also my Patreon, which again is up. I am so excited to show you guys more behind the scenes and tutorials and stuff on there. But yeah, this is it, guys. Done with the drawing. I will see you in the next video, and I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Bye bye!